$300 a month, starting at 30 years old, at 8% average annual return. By age 60, that's $440,000. The same $300 a month, starting at 35, that's only $280,000. That is a $160,000 gap. That's not coming from a market crash, it's from bad timing. And from 5 years of waiting, feeling responsible, 5 years of getting quote unquote ready to invest. And the painful part is that most people don't wait 5 years because they're careless. They wait because nobody told them when to start. So let me ask you something. What if saving more is actually the responsible move? It sounds right, it feels right, and up to a certain point, it is right. Your savings account earning around 3.5, 4% nowadays in 2026, that's barely keeping pace with inflation. You're not growing wealth, you're treading water with extra steps. On the other hand, we have the market. The S&P 500 historical average about 8 to 10% annually over long periods. Now, here's the key distinction. One is a protection tool and one is a wealth building tool. The problem is not that people use savings accounts. The problem is they use them past their job description. It's like using a screwdriver to hammer a nail. It's the wrong tool and the cost shows up later, not immediately. Now, your savings account has one main job, and once that job is done, every extra dollar you park there has higher potential return somewhere else. A traditional savings account paying around 0.4% on $20,000 earns you about $76 per year. Now, if you use the same $20,000 and you put it in a high yield savings, it could earn you up to $700 to $800 per year with the same FDIC insurance, same access to your money. And that's the first upgrade. But even 4% in a savings account, it's not wealth building. It's protection. And there's a ceiling on how much protection you actually need. So every dollar above that ceiling every single month is losing the compounding gap to the market. So this is the calculation that I don't see that many people doing. And it's the one that changes everything. Take your essential monthly expenses, not the lifestyle, just basically your survival costs. We're talking about your rent or mortgage, your utilities, groceries, insurance, and also your minimum debt payments if you have debt. Transportation also to work. That list, just the expenses that don't stop even if everything else does. And you take that number by your stability factor. Number one is a stable salary in a stable industry. That's about 3 months is a reasonable floor. Now, if you're a family, contractor, freelancer, or if you're in a volatile industry, my recommendation is 6 months. That's exactly what I personally do. And also, if you are self employed or running a business, of course, there's a lot more volatility there, at least 6 to 12 months because revenue can be unpredictable and expenses never pause for a slow quarter. And that number that we just calculated, this is your layer one ceiling. Now, once this is full, you stop. You stop adding to it. You stop thinking about it, and it sits there doing its job, staying ready on standby in case you need it. Now, most people never actually calculate this number. They have a vague sense of what they should have, and they just think I should just keep saving more. So they keep adding month after month, and the investing layer never really starts because the saving layer never feels done. And here's something that I realized: saving is never done. There will always be another reason to wait, another reason to save, another goal that we can set. Now, when I started digging into why emergency funds keep getting rated, from my personal experience, it's almost never because of a genuine emergency. It's the car repair that you knew was coming, but you never planned for. It's the insurance premium that hits every 6 months. It's the holiday spending that surprises people every December, like it wasn't on the calendar. December comes every year, and yet somehow we are all surprised when we have all these additional expenses and presents and gifts. Now, as we all know, these are not real emergencies, they're just unfunded savings goals. And because there's no dedicated bucket for these types of expenses, we end up rating on the emergency fund and we need to rebuild it. Then another expense that is unexpected hits, and then the emergency fund gets rated again, and the cycle runs indefinitely. And while that cycle is running, investing never really starts because there's always something coming up, always a reason to hold more cash, always a reason to wait. Now, the emergency fund is not the problem, the missing layer is the problem. And the fix is simpler than most people think, and it's called planned spending. Now, layer one is your emergency fund. It's for things that you could not see coming. We're talking about your job loss, medical crisis, something truly unexpected. It's untouchable and it just sits there. It doesn't move unless the unexpected actually happens. Now, layer two is your planned spending. And this is for things that you could see coming, but you didn't plan for. For example, we're talking a car maintenance, we're talking about insurance premiums, holiday spending, maybe a vacation that you want to save for, your annual bills. Then they get their own savings bucket, their own savings goal, and they keep getting funded monthly on purpose before the expense itself arrives. Now, the same high yield savings account, different mental or physical buckets, different jobs, they never share the same pile of money. Now, I personally use SoFi's Vaults for this great tool that allows you to set up separate label buckets inside one account. Right now, I have a couple for my baby that will be coming up in a couple of months. So we have postnatal care, we have a couple of others that are related to our expenses and goals that we have in the next couple of months. And of course, we automate the transfer into each one every month. And so when the expense hits or when it happens, then the money is already there. It never touches the emergency fund itself. Now, if you don't have a high yield savings account set up yet, that's the first move. There's going to be links in the description from my top recommendations. Now, here's where I want to stop for a second because if you've been doing all of this, saving consistently, being responsible, trying to get ahead, and you're still feeling behind, you're not behind because you failed. You're not behind because you're bad with money. You're behind because nobody gave you the sequence. I personally grew up with no financial playbook, just like you. I came to this country in the United States at 16, speaking almost no English, worked four jobs simultaneously to put myself through engineering school. And during this whole time, I guarantee you, nobody in my household talked about compound interest or the Roth IRA or index funds. This is all stuff that I started figuring out in my 20s. And I made every sequential mistake there was. I waited when I should have started. And here's the one that still stings me to this day. When I first opened my retirement account, when I had my first job as an engineer, I had to choose where my contributions would be invested. And I didn't really understand the options. So I picked what was the safest. I picked bonds, which is basically lending you money to the government in exchange for a very small, predictable return. It's very safe, very slow, great for somebody that is close to retirement, but it's terrible for somebody that is in their 20s or 30s with many years ahead of them. Now, what I should have picked was a target date fund. Think of it like a set it and forget it investment. You pick the year you plan to retire, let's say 2050, and the fund automatically manages everything for you. When you're young, it invests aggressively for growth. As you get older, it gradually shifts for safer, more conservative options. There's no decisions required. It adjusts on its own over time. Now, I left my money in bonds for nearly a decade before I caught the mistake. And the math on this is painful. Money that should have been growing at 8 to 10% annually was crawling only at 2 to 3% in over a decade on retirement contributions. That gap represented hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time I retire. Now, here's a shift in a realization that I recently had. And once you make it, everything else becomes clear. Investing is not a destination, it's actually a background process. It's like breathing. It runs whether your month is easy or hard, whether you're building your emergency fund or saving for a house or paying off debt. Only the percentage that gets invested changes, but the habit itself, I've learned that it never stops. Now, when my wife and I were paying off $215,000 in debt, we kept investing, not aggressively. We scaled it back, of course, but we never fully stopped because we understood that compounding clock has a cost. And every year off the clock is a year that you can recover. $200 a month started 10 years ago is worth more than $400 starting today. And the percentage that gets invested changes over time as your life responsibilities and, of course, as your finances change. But the habit itself, the background process, that never fully stops. Once your savings layers are funded, there are a lot of directions your excess cash can go. It can go to your kids' college, a business, real estate, other investment goals, all legitimate, all worth talking about. But this video specifically focuses on one thing and one thing only, and that is investing for your future self. Long term financial security, a 15 to 20-year horizon, retirement, the version of you that is going to need the money to live on decades from now. Everything else is a different conversation for a different video. Now, I say this not to limit you, but because the people who try to do everything at once usually end up doing nothing Well, get the foundation right, get the long term investing running. So, this is the priority order I personally follow. So, step one is the 401k or TSP or 403b to the employer match. Always. Even when you're paying off debt, even when money's tight, the employer match is the single highest guarantee return available to you, 50 to 100% return instantly, depending on your employer's terms. Step two is the Roth IRA. Now, this is your most powerful long term wealth building tool. You contribute after tax dollars, that is with the money that is in your bank account. The money grows tax free. You withdraw tax free retirement. In 2026, the contribution limit is 7,000. Max it every year if you can. If you cannot, contribute what you can, even if it's $50 or $100. Time in the Roth matters more than the amount itself. Now, step three is maxing out the 401k or TSP. Then the fourth priority is the taxable brokerage. Only after tax advantage accounts are maxed. At the end of the day, the order is not arbitrary. It's built around tax efficiency, and that efficiency compounds just like your returns do. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly what I personally do. For my personal retirement account, I use target date funds. You pick the fund closest to your respective retirement year, and it automatically adjusts the mix of the stocks and bonds as you get older. More aggressive when you're young, and a little bit more conservative as you approach retirement. No decisions required. You just got to set it, let it run. And for my Roth IRA, I personally invest in SWPPX through Schwab. That's the Schwab S&P 500 index fund. It's low cost, and over the long run, it has consistently delivered strong returns, and that's what I personally use. Now, for my taxable brokerage, I use SCHX. It's a large cap ETF. I use an ETF here instead of mutual funds because ETFs are more tax efficient in taxable accounts. Small but meaningful difference over decades. Now, there are other options out there. We are talking about VOO or VOO for Vanguard, FXAIX from Fidelity, VTI for total market exposure. Now, I know some of you are thinking, hey, but what if I need the money, right? If investing feels risky when I have real goals coming up soon. And hey, that's a completely reasonable thing to feel. And I want to address it directly because it's the right instinct applied to the wrong layer. Now, here's the distinction that matters. Layers one and two, that is your emergency fund and your planned spending, never go in the market. And they stay in a high yield savings account, liquid, FDIC insured, accessible in 1 to 2 business days with no market risks or volatility. The money is protected by design. Now, the investing layer is different. It's only money above those two ceilings, money with a 5+ year horizon, money that doesn't really need to be accessible next year or the year after. If you have a house down payment coming up in 12 months, that's planned spending. It stays in a high yield savings account, but your 401k contribution still runs in the background the entire time because that money is not house money, it's retirement money. Different bucket, different timeline. Now, the system handles the risk question by design. You're not choosing between safety and growth, you're actually running them both simultaneously, and that's the whole point. So this is the sequence that I personally follow for my own finances. Phase one, you build in your emergency fund, you're putting money into a high yield savings account every month. At the same time, in the background, your 401k is running at minimum the employer match. Now, phase two, you split your extra money two ways and you start funding your planned spending buckets or sinking funds. Money for car maintenance, maybe an insurance premium that is coming up in the next couple of months. Maybe you start saving for your family vacations or birthdays coming up, or a little down the road for holidays, whatever applies to your own specific life. And simultaneously, you open a Roth IRA and start contributing. You increase your investing, both run at the same time, neither waits for the other. And then we have phase three, where your planned spending is already funded for your current goals, and that monthly contribution now fully redirects to investing. The Roth gets maxed, the 401k scales up, and the background process accelerates. So here's how to calculate your actual numbers tonight. Step one is writing down your essential month expenses, not your full budget, just survival costs like rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance, minimum debt payments, transportation to work. That's the list. Step two is multiply by your stability number, 3 months if you're in a stable salary role, 6 months if you're a family, contractor, freelancer, or in a volatile industry. That number is your layer one ceiling. Write it down. Step three is list your top three known expenses coming in the next 3 to 12 months. Perhaps it is a car maintenance fund or car repair, insurance premium, or maybe a holiday spending. All of them up, and that's going to be your layer two number. Then step four is everything above those numbers with a 5+ year horizon belongs in the market. So calculate your ceilings today, fill it with the right tool, and let everything else work harder for you. So here's what we talked about today. Saving and investing are not two choices, they're two faces of one system. Your savings account has one job: hold the emergency fund, stay liquid, earn a competitive rate. Don't give it more than that. Layer one is your emergency fund itself. Layer two is your planned spending. And layer three is your investing. Now, they ran in sequence and eventually they start running in parallel. The priority order for investing itself: 401k to the employer match, then your Roth IRA, then you go back to maxing out your 401k, then your taxable brokerage. The goal is to keep it simple with target date funds for retirement, index funds for everything else, automated, let it compound. And investing runs in the background always, even when the money is tight, even when life is complicated, only the percentage changes, and that habit never stops. So now you have the sequence nobody handed you. Nobody handed this to me either. I figured it out while working 4 jobs, putting myself through engineering school, paying off $215,000 in debt with my wife. So whether you're ready to start or keep saving and start building your emergency fund, or you plan spending accounts, there's going to be links for high yield savings accounts in the description of this video. And if you're ready to start investing today, there's also going to be links in the description where you can get started. Take care. Peace.